A businessman and his childhood friend's bet goes out of hand when a woman they both know becomes involved. One night, bachelor Petro, who owns chains of car repair garages, arrives first at the casino entrance, followed by his friend Ole, who owns a Porsche. Before entering the establishment, Petro reminds Ole of their bet. Whoever gets married first has to give away their vehicle. Knowing that his friend has already bought a ring for his girlfriend, the bachelor is excited about winning the luxurious car. Despite Ole's annoyance at Petro's childish bets, the businessman persists in convincing his soon-to-be engaged friend that he'll soon need a larger car to fit a baby seat. Accepting his defeat, Ole hands over his car keys to Petro but warns him that there's something wrong with the engine. However, the bachelor doesn't seem to mind as he knows how to fix the issue. Inside the casino, the duo meets their two friends, Max and Andrei. There, the businessman proposes a toast to celebrate his freedom as a single man. In response, his friend argues that having a family adds to the fun rather than detracts from it. He calls the bachelor a Peter Pan, implying he's incapable of commitment and never grows up. When the single man denies this, Ole proposes a bet. If Petro can live under a roof with one woman for a month, he must give him his Porsche back. Upon hearing this, Petro asks what's in it for him. Andrei quickly chimes in, proposing that if Ole loses, he must give them all foot massages in the sauna. The bachelor then excitingly accepts the challenge, which Lana, a nearby woman, overhears. Nonetheless, he ends up sleeping with her. The next morning, a doorbell wakes them. Just then, Petro remembers Ole mentioning the previous night that his recently divorced sister will be temporarily staying in his penthouse while she looks for a new job. Opening the door, the bachelor meets Veronica, who used to be chubby when they were kids. Struck by her new look, Petro welcomes her inside, and she notices the provocative art on his wall. When Lana appears, he introduces her to his guest as his housekeeper. After the woman leaves, Veronica checks some stuff on her luggage, prompting the businessman to snap a photo of her behind secretly. Later, the bachelor meets with his friends for a jacuzzi party. When they ask to see a photo of Veronica, he shows them one he'd taken earlier, prompting them to admire her physique. Soon, Ole joins the conversation and Petro thanks him for letting Veronica stay in his place, confident that he'll easily win the bet. Returning to his penthouse that evening, the businessman is surprised when his guest's stubborn children, Marta and Marco, suddenly hug him. Veronica quickly intervenes, instructing her kids to greet the bachelor properly. When Veronica explains that she had to clothe the provocative art for the kids, Petro feels annoyed, prompting him to call Ole. The bachelor then brings up their bet's rules, reminding that it was about spending time with one woman, not an entire camp. Angry, he attempts to call off the bet, pointing out that his friend violated the agreement by not disclosing Veronica would bring her children. Hearing this, Ole proposes calling their friends to decide if it really constitutes a violation or not. Soon, Max and Andrei agree that Veronica's kids are part of her. After that, Ole points out that Petro has two choices. Either he continues the bet or admits that he can't do it. When the bachelor decides to continue, he asks if he still wins if Veronica and her kids have to leave before a month is up once she finds a job. Hearing this, the three agree that it would still technically be a win. After the call, Petro heads to the kitchen only to see that his fridge is filled with the kids' drawings. When the bachelor becomes annoyed, Veronica defends the children, explaining they added color to the house to make it less gloomy. Later, Petro joins the kids who are urged to eat veggies for dinner. He then tempts them by enjoying his eclairs in front of the children. When Marta asks if they can have some dessert, her mom refuses, pointing out it's bad for their health. Despite this, Petro continues to eat the eclairs to tempt the kids, much to Veronica's silent irritation. The next morning, Petro discovers that the children have used up all his expensive cologne in the bathroom, prompting Marta to explain that she and her brother used it to clean the rubber duck. Annoyed, the bachelor grabs the duck and attempts to flush it, making the kids cry. Hearing this, Veronica intervenes. Upon learning of the incident, she picks up the toy from the toilet bowl. After dining at a lavish restaurant, Ole and his fiancée, Yasya, prepare to leave. She complains about taking a taxi, and he apologizes, explaining that he's still waiting for a car part to fix the Porsche. Meanwhile, entering his gym room, Petro is annoyed to find the kids' wigwam and toys there. Suddenly, the children run, causing him to step on a Lego. He then chases after them, but they retreat to their wigwam because it's their bedtime. Frustrated, he heads to the terrace and contacts Kisa, who will arrive the next day to spend a romantic time with him. However, seeing Veronica arrive, the bachelor realizes it won't be a great time for him and the woman, so he makes an excuse and tells her that he'll be busy. When Veronica approaches him, she hands him some drinks. She then praises him for his success as a businessman, linking it to his talent for repairing things when they were young. Without being asked, she shares that she graduated from the conservatory but soon got married to a psychopath and had children, causing her to accept an online job as a music teacher. Just then, Petro interrupts the conversation, telling her that he's not a good psychologist and suggests she consult someone else. Despite this, she thanks him for letting her and the kids live with him temporarily. She promises to find a job soon and relieve him of their presence. The next morning, Petro wakes up from a nightmare in which the children are demanding him to do tasks for them. Meanwhile, Kisa, who's unclothed, waits at the door, only to be shocked when the kids open it. Promptly, the bachelor appears and quickly clothes her, causing some contraceptives to drop from the garment. When Veronica checks them, the children tell her about the poor woman who had no money to buy clothes. After this, the kids get curious about the contraceptives, prompting Petro to explain that they're pills. Before going for a job later, Petro's surprised when a water balloon drops from the balcony. Following this, he goes for a run and Ola joins. His friend informs him that he and their other friends will go to the penthouse the next day to watch the place because Veronica will be gone to attend the job interview. Arriving home, Petro gets upset when a water balloon falls on his head. Knowing it's the kids, he unplugs the television while they're watching. To relieve stress, the bachelor decides to box a bit with the music turned up. However, Veronica, who's in an online class, asks him to turn the volume down. Ignoring her request, he turns it up even louder, causing the teacher to compete by raising her voice. As a result, the annoyed neighbor knocks on their door, asking for a hammer. He then uses it to damage their internet connection, disrupting the online teacher's session. After preparing a drink the next morning, Petro discovers that the children have made cutouts from his men's magazine, damaged his money, and put stickers on his passport. Furious, he chases after the kids, threatening to get rid of them. Soon, his friends arrive. Oleg greets his sister who is about to leave for an interview. After Veronica leaves, Marta and Marco appear in decent clothing and greet the guests properly. When one of the friends offers them sweets, they refuse, knowing it's bad for their health. That night in the living room, the men watch the football game while the kids are playing on the floor. Later, before putting the children to bed, Ola asks them for a report on how things are going, revealing that he tasked them with being his special agents to save Earth from Petro, a mutant. Marta then details what they did to Petro's cologne, magazines, money, and passport. Hearing this, Ola is delighted, commenting that their plan is going well. After this, Ola explains that he has new special weapons for them. He gives them 2 envelopes and advises them to hide them until the time is right. He also promises to give them gifts after their mission. The next morning, Veronica takes the kids out, which makes Petro happy. However, he soon discovers that the kids have applied some temporary tattoos to his face when he looks in the mirror. When he attempts to take a bath, he realizes that there's no water supply. Arriving at the golf course, the bachelor meets Max and Andrei, who make fun of his appearance. As he plays, he breaks down, causing the ladies to document his outburst. Coincidentally, one of the women, Violetta, is a mental health coach, so Petro talks to her while lying on her chest. He rants about the children destroying his money and passport. Suddenly, their conversation's interrupted when Petro receives a text from his scary mom. Quickly, he comes up with a plan to involve her in persuading Veronica and her kids to move out. During dinner, Veronica asks Petro to drive the kids to school for a talent show in 2 days. She promises to catch up with them after her interview. In response, Petro agrees to drive the kids, but only if Veronica agrees to pretend to be his wife when his mom arrives the next day. With no second thoughts, she accepts the deal. The next morning, Vasilina arrives and quickly becomes concerned about her son, noticing he looks skinny. Afterwards, she shows him a bunch of women's photos, giving him options on who to potentially marry. Just then, Veronica greets her, reminding her that she's Ole's sister. Learning this, the bachelor's mom immediately hugs her, praising how she lost weight. However, when Vasilina learns that Petro and Veronica are husband and wife, she begins to panic. Soon, Veronica introduces Marta and Marco as her children from her first marriage. Following this, Petro invites the kids to go to the playground. leaving Veronica and his mom together, hoping it'll drive the music teacher insane. Later, Vasilina complains about Veronica using the dishwasher, pointing out that she's just wasting Petro's electricity. Meanwhile, Petro notices that no one's playing in the playground. Instead, everyone's eyes are glued to their phones. He tries to urge the children to have fun, but they're not interested. In the penthouse, Vasilina shows Veronica the homemade cutlets and pie she made for her son. The older woman then lectures Veronica that she should be able to cook her husband's favorites. Then she insults her, implying that her son will suffer because her daughter-in-law is not fit to be a homemaker. When Vasilina checks the fridge, she notes that the food inside could cause ulcers. Upon learning that Veronica cooked chicken for Petro, she throws it away due to the bad smell. She also disposes of the chia seeds, mistaking them for chicken feed. Because of this rude action, Veronica speaks out, reminding her mother-in-law that she didn't ask for her permission to empty the fridge, leading to a food fight between them. When Vasilina insults Veronica for having fatherless children, Veronica retaliates by pointing out that she raised Petro without a father as well. Meanwhile, Petro shows off his muscles in the playground and exercises on the monkey bars. The women admire his physique, while Marco's convinced that he really is a mutant. The bachelor then urges Marco to do the same to be macho, but the boy refuses. When Marta shares her belief that men should be gentle and responsible, Petro explains that a real man owes nothing to anyone. Returning to the penthouse, Petro's surprised to see Veronica and Vasilina bonding over singing and wine. He becomes upset when he overhears his mom telling Veronica that she can address her as mother, realizing that his plan has failed. Just then, Vasilina explains that she's flying to Turkey the next day and heads to the room to rest. Meanwhile, Veronica falls asleep due to intoxication, prompting Petro to carry her to bed. The next morning, the day of the talent show, Petro panics when he realizes that he woke up late. Quickly, he dresses the kids in their cucumber costumes and rushes to drive them to school, hoping to arrive on time for their presentation. On the road, Petro meets two women and challenges them to a race, suggesting that the winner will invite the other for cocktails. However, Marta opens the windows and throws up, which irritates the women. Meanwhile at school, Marta and Marco's class performs on stage. In her seat, the teacher, Natalia, is upset because the cucumbers are missing. Just then, Petro and the children arrive, but when they step on stage, the teacher scolds them for being late. When the host announces that the other class won, the designer comes up on stage, disappointed that her effort to make costumes was wasted because of Marta and Marco. Natalia then proposes that both classes receive a grade of 20, except for Marta and Marco, who are marked late. However, Petro intervenes, suggesting that the other class perform again now that the cucumbers are present. The host refuses and insults the kids by calling them fatherless orphans. This prompts Petro to punch him, initiating chaos on stage. Suddenly, Veronica arrives, witnessing the whole incident. When the kids reunite with their mom, they tell her how Petro defended them. While the bachelor admits it's his fault for making them late, Marta shares that she had fun at school for the first time. To de-stress, Petro takes the family to the amusement park, which Veronica appreciates. Later, she gets a call and rejoices upon learning that she got the choir job. Later, Lana spots them while they're on the escalator, which makes her feel vengeful. Returning to the penthouse, Petro takes the kids to the wigwam. Sleepily, Marco tells him that he is great even though he's a mutant. Marta adds that they don't need Ole's gifts because he turns out to be a good creature, and the world doesn't need saving. Hearing this, the bachelor realizes that his friend had planned it all. He tries to tell Veronica about it, but she suddenly kisses him, leading to a romantic moment. The next morning, she prepares breakfast while he drives to the bakery to buy croissants for her. However, Lana arrives at the penthouse and informs Veronica about Petro and Ole's bet. Exiting the bakery, Petro realizes that the Porsche is being towed and quickly runs after it. Returning to the penthouse, the bachelor realizes that Veronica and the kids are gone. He discovers a note on the fridge that says it was a mistake. In frustration, he crumples the paper and throws it away. Soon, Petro gets a call from his friends. In a disappointed tone, he points out that he won the bet because Veronica and the kids left. Learning this, Ole tries to contact his sister, but she doesn't respond. His friends tease him into accepting defeat, but he believes that things might turn around because Petro might pursue his sister. Worried, Ole heads to his sister's ex's place only to discover that Veronica and the kids are not there. That night, a devastated Petro hosts a party to try to forget everything. Ola asks him what he did to cause his sister to leave, sparking a confrontation. However, the bachelor expresses disappointment in his friend for using the kids in an attempt to win the bet. Ola admits he didn't want to give up his Porsche, but points out that the event was more of an eye-opener for Petro, suggesting he is capable of living a married life. However, the lonely businessman disagrees because Veronica and the kids have just left him. Petro then takes a woman to his room to spend the night with her. Suddenly, he receives a video message from Marco and Marta. The kids then think that he's really a mutant for using them to win the car. Hearing this, the bachelor quickly realizes that they found out about the bet. After crying, Petro teams up with Ola to look for Veronica the next morning. Clueless about her work location, they visit every choir school and church they can find. When they reach the third one, they finally find her leading the choir. Petro interrupts the concert to approach her, confessing he can't live without her and the kids. He admits he never wanted a family until he had her. Veronica becomes teary-eyed upon hearing this. Petro then proposes that they become a family, and the children agree. Ola chimes in, asking for forgiveness because he started the bet. When Veronica asks about the Porsche, Petro offers to give it to the choir as a gift, which secretly disappoints Ola. The pianist then embraces the idea, realizing that selling the luxurious car could fund their trip to Vienna for the choir competition. After bending down on one knee, Petro kisses Veronica, who finally agrees to his proposal. The audience cheers as the choir sings a song to celebrate the moment.